NFL player props here on PrizePicks for Monday, September 18th. We got two Monday Night Football games here. We get the Panthers versus the New Orleans Saints, and then the Cleveland Browns versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're giving one play from each game here. Again, before we get started, there's a link in the description below. You can sign up for our premium Discord, $9.30 per month. You get all the plays I'm making on PrizePicks as well. We have other premium cappers in there that post all of their plays as well. Super positive community. Everyone just trying to help each other cash, you guys. And $9.30 per month is 31 cents per day here. But let's get into it, you guys. Two NFL player props here for the Monday Night Football slate. Should be a fun one. Again, not a financial advisor. This is not gambling advice. These are simply just the plays I'm personally looking at making. Hopefully give you guys some insight and analysis to that make your own player prop decisions here. Again, no one is pressing submit on this parlays other than yourselves. But let's get right into it. Both these plays here are going to be NFL fantasy scores here, or fantasy scores here on PrizePicks. Both, obviously, PrizePicks runs a PPR scoring model, so make sure you guys keep that in mind. But yeah, let's not waste any time. Let's just get right into it. So the first play is going to be from the Monday Panthers versus the Saints, and it's Jamal Williams over 11.5 fantasy score here. Before the fantasy score lines dropped, I was just kind of looking at props, and I was expecting this line to honestly start at 12.5. So at 12.5, I definitely think, at 11.5, I definitely think there is value. In week one against an extremely tough Tennessee run defense, he finished with 7.2 fantasy. Like, Tennessee Titans over the last 2 years, like, I don't think there's like 5 players that have gone over 60 rushing yards versus the Tennessee Titans. As far as yards per carry go, they're extremely elite, and Jamal Williams was able to manage, still salvage his day somewhat, 7.2 fantasy in that game, which I don't think a team scored a touchdown. Like, I don't remember, but it was just a super weird game, ton of field goals. This should be a little bit better matchup, definitely a better matchup actually versus the Carolina Panthers. So we take a look at this game, specifically Panthers versus Saints, and the Saints are 3-point favorites here, 39.5 over under. Weather should not be a factor. This is obviously a road game for the Saints. So you can take a look here. Like I said, the Saints are 3-point favorites against a rookie quarterback, and obviously the Saints defense is pretty tough. So I'm expecting the Saints to go up in this game and be able to run the ball. We saw in week one, or so far this season, the Panthers giving up 35.7 fantasy points per game to the running back position, and we just saw them absolutely get cooked by those Falcons running backs. We saw Tyler Algier have 24.4 PPR fantasy points, and Brian Robinson had 20.3. So combined, these two running backs for the Falcons had 44.7 fantasy points. All we need tonight is from Jamal Williams is 11.6 essentially. Looking at some stats for Jamal Williams, obviously obviously Alvin Kamara is out, and it's looking like Kendre Miller is going to be out as well. So this backfield should be dominated by Jamal Williams. We take a look at his snap count. In week one, he had a 75% snap count, 49 total snaps in that game. I mean, the next running back had 17%. Tony Jones had 11%. So just a ton of workload here for Jamal Williams to be able to, I think, capitalize and continue to really just kind of dominate overall. I just think it's a great matchup for him in a game which they should be up, right? Injury report here has Kendre Miller as currently questionable, but he practices in limited fashion. And I think even if he does play, he's not going to really damage or put a dent in Jamal Williams' workload too much. We take a look at Jamal Williams, his fantasy score game log last season on a PPR basis. I mean, when he got, like, we're talking about like Jamal Williams, when he got significant touches, right? He cleared this line in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 games last season. On a PPR scoring model. Obviously, some of these games here was when he was splitting the backfield with DeAndre Swift and things like that as far as his attempts go. But, I mean, in games where he gets 17-plus attempts, I mean, he's cleared the over pretty easily on this. And I think we forget kind of the pass catcher that Jamal Williams is as well. Like, if we go back to his days with the Packers, like, he was a pass catcher out the backfield along with Aaron Jones. Like, with the Packers, right, you can see the receiving work he got, like, look at these receiving games for him, right? Look how many games he had at least 2 catches with the Packers. So I definitely think with Derek Carr and with this Saints kind of offense, the way they run things, he can get 2, maybe 3 receptions tonight as well, which should be able to push this fantasy score over pretty easily. But I'm expecting the Saints to get up early, really pound the ball on the ground with Jamal Williams, and if he can score a touchdown somewhere around the goal line, this should be an easy over. So Jamal Williams over 11.5 fantasy score is the first play. The second play here that I'm targeting is going to be from the Steelers versus Browns, and it's going to be Elijah Moore over 8.5 fantasy score. No Amari Cooper tonight, and Elijah Moore cleared the over on this with Amari Cooper in a super tough, rainy type of atmosphere against the Cincinnati Bengals. He finished with 9.2 fantasy, but I mean, if you take a deeper look, I mean, Elijah Moore, he didn't really play the fourth quarter much, right? The Browns were up quite a bit. And it was pretty easy for him. I mean, it was pretty easy for the Browns to rest their starters in that game. But we take a look at deeper dive here. You can see here, this is on Fantasy Pros, more tied Amari Cooper for the team lead in target share, 24.1%. He also handling a 20.3% air yard share, and he was second on the team with a 22.7% first read share. So now, no Amari Cooper, he should completely lead this Cleveland Browns offense in touches and reads and targets overall. I definitely think this fantasy score line is a little bit too low considering how they're also using him kind of in the backfield. You can see here he did have 2 rush attempts for 19 yards as well. Right, there's just so many ways they're looking to use him. Kevin Stefanski has been talking about this all offseason. He sees there's no shortage of ways for the Browns to deploy Elijah Moore. Right, you can see here it's been well reported we want to use this kid in a bunch of different ways. Teams know that will hand it to him, that will throw it to him. As you know, there's no shortage of plays. Right, and Elijah Moore, he saw just extreme work. I mean, 9.2 PPR fantasy. No Amari Cooper here. We saw the Pittsburgh Steelers get absolutely cooked by Brandon Ayuk, finished with 32.9 PPR fantasy points, and Deebo Samuel had 11.3 fantasy points as well. Obviously, in this game, Christian McCaffrey led the way, and the Steelers were up. I mean, the Steelers were down by a ton. Niners were up by a ton. So, right, there wasn't a real need for the Niners to continue to throw the ball. And I definitely think in this game we should see a close matchup. Steelers at home, division game. I definitely see Elijah Moore playing the full 4 quarters, right, and having to be used in a variety of different ways in this game that I do believe is going to be close. Taking a look at this spread here, it's a 2-point spread. Cleveland's 2-point favorites here on the road. So again, here's the 2 plays for this YouTube video. I definitely think Monday night games, 2 Monday night games, it's definitely should be a fun one here. Jamal Williams over 11.5 fantasy score, and Elijah Moore over 8.5 fantasy score. Let me know in the comments below how you guys feel about these 2 plays here. Drop a like, hit the subscribe button, and as always, let's cash.